Hi, this is Tammy Leisher, host of Embracing Change, Talking Through Trauma. The podcast is focused on fitness enthusiasts and movement educators, where we'll have deep conversations that are impacting the movement industry. For example, trauma, health, vitality, the nervous system, and movement. And now, welcome to the podcast. Good afternoon. Welcome to Embracing Change, Talking Through Trauma. And today my guest is Karen Cerezo. Karen is empowering women in midlife to thrive through menopause and beyond. She is a certified health coach, fitness trainer, a nutritionist, and a menopause expert. And she understands the difficulties that possibly you're experiencing, and she's here to help you regain your control of your health and your well-being. Welcome, Karen.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be here.
So am I. I'm so glad to. And you're, can you tell me a little bit about like what brought you to this point?
Yes. So I was actually a middle school teacher for about 17 years. And I was having great success in my own health and wellness journey, and decided to take a leap of faith and went out and quit teaching and started doing personal training. And so I started working with a outdoor fitness group, which I loved. It was amazing. I realized, these people were coming, they were getting their workouts in, they were still struggling. So to better help my clients, I got certified in nutrition. And then it just kind of spun from there. I got certified as a health coach, that holistic approach to wellness. As I started to age, I realized that the company I was working for couldn't focus on everyone. It was really hard. And I kept saying, these women need some very specific type of training as we're going through the change. I know I was struggling in my own fitness journey at that point. I was gaining weight. I was struggling with brain fog. I was still eating right. I was still moving my body, but it felt different. I was struggling with joint pain. And so I decided that there was a group of women that needed some special care. And that was our midlife women. And so I left and opened up my own personal training business and health coaching business to cater to women in midlife and to help them understand how to work with the changes that are going on in their bodies. So it's been a long process. It's been a little over 10 years that's, from start to finish and where we are today. But it's been an amazing process because I've met so many women and I've got to hear so many stories, and seeing menopause come to the forefront. I mean, it's not quite there, but it's getting there, has been really awesome over the past 6-7 years.
I know that in the Pilates community, there's a lot of women talking about menopause, like heavily talking about menopause, and or the lack of medical professionals that are talking about it, but also just really educating people on what really is menopause. And one of the things that I really like that you've done, and you have it on the wall behind you, is you've written a book called Navigating Menopause.
Mine too.
And I can already tell you that I have used this with at least one of my clients who is navigating menopause. And so can you talk to me, because you've done extensive you just have lots of sections in here. And what I really liked about it is you leave space. It's almost like a journal for the women who are experiencing menopause and using it as a tracker to take to their doctors, correct?
Yeah. It really is more than just like a book because, I've said it before, there's so many books out there and they're great books, and I could have never done anything as amazing as what's already out there. What I noticed, and with my own journey, when I started struggling, my strength training was off, my endurance was off. I was training, like I said, my joints were hurting. I was struggling with brain fog. I was itchy. My eyesight was changing. I wasn't sleeping. I mean, there was just a list of symptoms And when I was telling my mom about this, I'm like, I don't understand. I'm still doing all of the things for my body that's so good. She said, it sounds like you're going through perimenopause. And I was like, what is that word? I've never heard that word. I've never heard you tell me about that word. I've never heard my girlfriend say that word. And so that's when I really went into a deep dive of what is perimenopause. I mean, we've all heard menopause, and I thought it was, you know, what a lot of women thought, hot flashes, and I stopped my period, and that's it. Life goes on. There's so much more that goes into it that I had no idea. And so as I started going into my research, realized I know what to do. And I feel like obviously I have a little bit more knowledge than the average person. Getting, you know, as a health coach, as a trainer, how are other women dealing with this if they don't even know what to talk about? So the more I started talking to women, and the more, like you said, the medical field is maybe not up to par for what we need as women. And the more I talked to women, the more I had working with clients, a lot of them were struggling to get proper medical care. And I felt a lot of it was because they didn't have the data. And the trackers are exactly what they're there to create, data for you to take and hopefully get the best medical treatment for your unique situation. So that was
Yeah.
really the whole purpose of creating the workbook, is so that we have somewhere that we can keep track of this journey, so that we can get the results that we're looking for and that we deserve.
And to me, you know, I had breast cancer, and the treatment, and now we're talking, it's been 15 years since I had it, but the treatment at that particular point was give me a shot, bump into menopause, and send me on my way. No talk of anything at all about the symptoms that I would be experiencing. You know, I just thought, you know, sleep was a part of it. And but as time has gone on, and I realize I felt alone. And so
Yeah.
oftentimes people don't want to talk about menopause. Even now, I have, because most of my clients are women, and they still don't. They don't talk about it, or they might be embarrassed to talk about it. And what I really like about your book is it opens up a conversation that it's normal for women. This is a normal part of our evolution, so to speak, or aging, or whatever you want to call it. But I think it's really like I I really like you talked about joint pain, and you talked about like one of the areas in the book that I liked was like even monitoring your sleep patterns.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but just even like gut health, and how oftentimes, and weight gain. I mean, we've talked about all those things, and it's like um, you said yourself that you weren't doing anything any differently, but even strength training as we age, and why it's important to do strength training and why we need it. Um, I just Can you speak a little bit about like some of you, because you work with a lot of ladies, you
Mm-hmm.
do, and
That's all
so
I
that
do.
I know, and you've probably adapted programming around your clientele to meet where they are in their lifespan. So you might have people that are in menopause, and you might have people that are in their 70s and they're postmenopausal. Um, so you've designed your curriculum or programming to meet their needs from a standpoint. So um, what are some of the things that do you have like see more than others as far as like signs and symptoms, or because you talked about brain fog, you talked about itchiness, and you talked about like weight gain. I know those would probably, because you said those, they're probably there, but do you see others like that would be
There's
like,
Yeah, there is a lot. And in the book, I do talk about the top 40 symptoms. The more research that's being done, they're currently saying that there could be, 70 plus different symptoms related to menopause. So it is a big list. You mentioned a lot of the common ones, the brain fog, the weight gain, the joint pain, maybe the changes in the gut health. there's so many things that are going on. And like, I didn't know my hair was changing, my eyesight was changing, my skin was really dry. There was just a lot of things that I was like, is this menopause? Am I just getting older? Is there something chronically, like, do I have a chronic disease I don't know about? I was suffering from vertigo, which was new. And there was just a whole list. Your mouth health changes. I mean, I tell people it literally affects you from A to Z, top to bottom. And so, the women that do come to me, they might have those basic ones. I'm gaining weight. I feel a little, my cognitive health isn't there as much as, I feel a little scatterbrained, maybe unorganized. But as we start to talk about other things that they're experiencing, maybe things with inflammation, maybe things related to sleep, they didn't even chalk that up to aging. They think stress. I got a busy schedule. Holidays are coming up. There's so much more than that. And so when you can really sit down and look at what your body is telling you, listen to what your body is telling you. And I tell people all the time, your body is constantly whispering to you. And if you don't listen for those whispers, it will start to yell at you. And that is when we have gone, to the point sometimes of no return. And so we want to listen to those whispers. And that's why tracking how you are feeling, how is your sleep, what symptoms are you suffering from, how is your diet, are you noticing your blood sugar fluctuating, are you noticing that things that you used to love to eat you can no longer eat anymore, maybe your digestive system is changing, which by the way it is. So it's just really looking at things that we might not have even noticed because we didn't know that was a thing. So it is really interesting when I talk to women, and I have women that are in their late 30s that come to me, and my oldest client is 74 that works out with me. And while their workout might look slightly different, the program is pretty general. I make sure that we get a nice, well-rounded program. I think a lot of women think, well, I'm post-menopause, whether that's at 52 or at 62 or at 72, I'm post-menopause, so everything is fine. Unfortunately, that's not true. If I'm postmenopausal, if I finish at 52, fingers crossed, and I live to be 82, I'm living 30 years postmenopausal. That doesn't mean menopause is over. That doesn't mean that the hot flash automatically goes away or that the joint pain is gone. There's more things that actually happen because my estrogen is pretty much, at the lowest level. Chronic health is a huge issue, or chronic heart disease is a huge issue for women postmenopausal, osteoporosis. And so I think it's important that, that we're addressing menopause and postmenopause when we're talking about this, because it doesn't just end, it doesn't just go away.
No. And in the work that I do, I also see, because of working with the field of trauma and how it shows up in the bodies through autoimmune disorders, and some of them show up later in life as opposed to just earlier in life. Do you think in itself, and you can agree to disagree, that because of some of the symptoms, it almost can be a traumatic event for a woman going into menopause?
Honestly do. And it's funny because I've got plenty of girlfriends that are like, I didn't experience anything. All of a sudden my period stops. I was done. It was fine. I feel like it has been kind of a pain in the butt for me, but I've also talked to women where it's debilitating for them.
Yeah.
Whether it's because it's affecting their relationship, their intimacy with their partner, whether it's affecting what's going on with their career, whether they feel like they're completely losing their mind and nobody is listening to them, they're going to physicians, they're not being heard. It can be very traumatic. And for women that, like I said, I'm 51 and I'm completely okay with my period ending. I'm done. I'm not having any more babies. I've had my 3 beautiful kids. I'm okay. That's not how everybody feels. There's plenty of women out there that feel like once my period is over, number one, that's the end of me having babies. And number two, maybe I feel less feminine at that point. Maybe I don't feel as beautiful or as sexy or as, as girly as I want to. And that's a hard thing for women to feel. Going through breast cancer, how scary that is to feel less of a woman. And nobody wants to feel that way. And so I think, yes, I think it could be a very traumatic experience for women, depending on how they go in, depending on their support system, depending on the care that they're getting.
Well, because I also work very closely with breast cancer survivors as well in my practice. And, it's very interesting because more and more women are being diagnosed earlier.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and it really does play a havoc on, and everybody's treatment's all going to be different. And all those things that you said, and it's like just being aware, um, of like, especially with like, I'm just going to say it because I'm still a very big advocate for breast cancer and breast health. And when you're navigating menopause, breast cancer can show up. Well, I mean, at all ages, and it doesn't really mean that it's gonna, it's gonna be less prone at certain ages. And it's no longer just that, well, when you get into your late 40s that you're gonna be diagnosed, because now I've had women as young as in their mid 30s have breast cancer. So yeah, but I think that you talked about the 40, um, like 40 symptoms. What page in your book is those 40 symptoms on? Do you remember?
That would be, could you imagine? I have to say, I'd be pretty darn impressed. I'm going to say it's page 30. So let me see if I'm right. That's the section on symptom tracking. So am I right?
32.
32. Oh, so 32. Yeah. Those are
Yeah.
the
No,
40
you
most
got
common.
wow.
Mm-hmm. But like I said, there's up to 70. And I think one of the ones I don't have on here that I'm starting to notice more and more women talking about, especially on social media, is something called frozen shoulder. And that is a wild one. Like, who would have thought that that's all connected? And that's such a common, I say it's common now in the sense that more people are saying, oh my gosh, that's me. I didn't know that was a thing. And so we are seeing it. So yeah, there's a huge list.
Wow. Like just like changes in eyesight,
Mm-hmm.
um, or joint pain. I mean, you like unexplained joint pain, I guess would you say it's unexplained joint pain where it's
Well,
not always, or
I
is it?
guess you could call it that. Like, obviously, we have a lot of, you probably know tons of people that have knee issues. Maybe they played sports in high school. I know my
Yeah.
husband was a runner. He's always complaining about his knees. I've always had very healthy knees, and now my knees hurt all the time. And so, one of the things we have to understand is that estrogen is a lubrication. And that's why we notice the changes of dryness in our skin, the changes in our hair, even our mouth gets a lot drier than we've had, before. It's not lubricating your joints like it was. And so that's where you're going to explain joint pain. That all of a sudden you're like, wait a minute, I've never had an issue with this. Yeah.
But also like, and only because these are things that have happened to me, but
Mm-hmm.
increased using like urinary or
Oh,
incontinence.
yes.
Urinating.
Incontinence is a big one. And I think what's so frustrating with that, I could tell you for the longest time, I've always known that my mom's dealt with incontinence. I didn't really know what it was, but I knew that she had to buy products to help her get through the day comfortably without giving my mom's secrets away.
No, yeah,
But
no, it's okay.
that is that's a $1 billion market
Yeah.
is dealing with incontinence. And I think one of the things as women, we've always accepted, oh, this is just what we do. I guess we get old and we pee our pants. There's so many ways to change that. There's so many ways to improve your pelvic floor health. And I follow some amazing women on social media that talk about pelvic floor health. And it really is interesting because I think we figured, oh, that's normal. Normal doesn't mean it's not treatable. Just because it's normal doesn't mean that you can't make it better. And I think that's where, as women, we need to make sure that we understand that and we remind ourselves that that is treatable. And so, yes, pelvic floor health is a big one. And even just working out, I'll have women that are coming to me and I'm like, okay, we're going to do jumping jacks. And they're like, no, we're not. So they want to do something else, which is nice because they feel comfortable being able to modify their workout to fit their circumstances. But it's a real thing. And it affects your daily life. And something like that, that's something we should address.
Yeah. And I think and it doesn't just happen to women who are entering into menopause. And I'm going to say, I actually have a client, and without giving away to, like you, not giving away a lot of details. Yeah, but I suggested to her, because I see her virtually, and I just felt like somebody could, like, for her to work in person with somebody. So I had saw her virtually this morning, and I said, okay, what are they doing? And like, she's talking about breathing and talking about diaphragmatic stuff. And I said, oh,
Yes.
we do that in Pilates all the time. And so then we just revisited some of those exercises. But I am not a pelvic floor therapist.
Right.
I'm not minimizing what I do, just like you, but it's like, sometimes, it's important to like refer out if I don't know. And I know you're the same way. If we don't know, we're going to refer out. But that's just so, and I think for a long time, especially like in your mom's age group or my mom's age group, you didn't talk about menopause. They didn't talk about all these things. And it's being open and aware and advocating for yourself. This isn't right. Something's not right with my body. And keep talking about it until somebody's going to listen.
Well, and it's funny because I know you work with kids. And if I came to you and I said, my child has these issues, I would have a list. This is what I'm seeing. This is what's happening when this happens, or whatever it is. And I would have had documentation. I would bring it to you, help me solve my child's problem. We don't do the same thing for ourselves.
No.
And when we do, like you said, if somebody came to me and said, I have a question about pelvic floor health, I could tell you very little. I could tell you the very general stuff that I've read, that I've researched, but I know, no, that's not my wheelhouse. So like you said, we would refer them out. I wish doctors would do the same thing. If I came to you and said, I think I'm in perimenopause, and my doctor, that's not their strength, maybe their strength is delivering babies, I wish they would say, I'm going to refer you to somebody that specializes in this very particular season, because a lot of doctors are not versed in this. They've taken very little.
Well, keep talking.
Oh, I was going to say, they've taken very little schooling. There's a chapter that they go through when they go through medical school. If they want additional information about menopause and how to work with midlife women, they have to search it out themselves. They have to do additional training. They have to pay for it. They have to go to classes. They have to do the work. Some of them do, some of them don't. And I think it is so okay for women to ask, do you feel like you are qualified to guide me through this journey? And if not, will you refer me to somebody that is?
Say that again, loud and clear.
And I think, like you said, we have to advocate for ourselves. Ask those questions. Are you qualified to work with me through menopause? Is this your strength? I don't want just antidepressants. I don't want, I want to be given all of the options of my treatment. Whether you agree with them or not, I should be able to decide if I agree with that type of, especially, particularly hormone replacement therapy. Some doctors won't even mention it because they don't agree with it. And that's not fair. We can't hold that information back. So asking, are you qualified to work with me? And then having the confidence to say, I think I'm going to get a second opinion. I think I'm going to get a third opinion. I don't feel heard or listened to. I've written down all of my information and you're not taking it seriously. And that's exactly why I created this, is so that you could go in, here it is. I need you to guide me the best you can, or refer me to somebody that can.
Well, and I think that because I feel that I didn't receive those kinds, like the guidance that you're giving right now, I did not receive.
Right.
Because, so now my body's been in menopause for 15 years. And the tool that you've created and the doors that we're opening, hopefully the podcast will open up doors. But I know you've been also doing a lot of book signings in your own area, but I mean, get it out bigger than Austin, Texas. So
Right.
yes. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it is important. Like I said, I mean, there's tons of books out there and they're amazing. Now, what do we do with that information? And so when I talk about being empowered, that's knowledge. That's your empowerment. And having the confidence to go in and demand that you get treated with the best medical care that's out there, because the medical care is out there. It's finding somebody to guide you through that. Now, obviously, we've got years before it's going to be great. And we've got a lot of conversations to have, but we're moving in the right direction.
But I think too, like just something as simple as, like you talked about weight gain and, you know, the lining of your gut, the microbiome, it starts to change. I mean, there's just like you talked about eyesight, and I can tell you that I'm living truth. My eyes did change. They they did
Yes.
change. Um, and I had no idea until I sat down here with you that that could have been a sign or a symptom of menopause.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. So, I mean, and I feel like I know a lot about, I mean, I'm not an expert on menopause. I know personally, but it's kind of interesting when you talked about like a child because, you know, when they come to me, just like you've done this, I've got a checklist that I have parents go through. Yeah,
Right.
yeah. So,
Yeah. And we would fight tooth and nail if somebody said, yeah, just, take your kid home and they'll be fine. They'll just power through it. They'll grow out of it, whatever. We would never accept that. I wouldn't accept that if I went to the vet and my vet was like, your dog's fine. If I feel in my gut that's not right, I would go to a different vet. I don't understand why we don't do it for
I think
ourselves.
that, yes, and that same intuition that you just talked about, whether it's your child or your pet, follow that same intuition for yourself. And
Yeah.
that's why, like, when I had my client here earlier this week and she's asking me about these things, and I came upstairs and I got your book. And I mean, and I just said, you know, look at some of these things. And now I've got it dog-eared in my book about the symptoms because I think it's important. But
Yeah.
pelvic floor health is another area that, you know, again, people don't want to talk about, but I mean, they talk about it, you know, after they have a baby, but what about that time in between? You've had a baby and now you're having issues with, you know, you gotta
Yeah.
be to the bathroom because you gotta pee every 2 hours or you less than that sometimes. So yeah.
Well, and it's funny because if you talk to women from other countries, they get nurses after delivery to help them with their pelvic floor health and regain the strength. And we don't do anything with that. I don't know that anybody even mentioned that word to me after I had babies. And so there are so many changes with regard to our sex organs. It's drier, it's uncomfortable, your sex changes, you might not be in the mood, you have incontinence, so you're getting up to go to the bathroom, now you're not sleeping well. It does affect your libido, and that's an again another thing that's really important to discuss, because it affects your partner as well. And sometimes the partner feels rejected and you're like, I promise you it's not you. My body does not feel like it's mine anymore right now. And having those open conversations, and I am so fortunate to have a husband that I can say anything to and he's like, whoa, okay. But he listens and he understood and he helped me get the treatment I needed to feel good again. And I opted for hormone replacement therapy. That helped so many things, but I will tell you it helped in the bedroom as well. And that helped our relationship. So having those open conversations, we have to be open and honest. We have to talk to our partners. We have to talk to our doctors. We have to talk to our best friends, our sisters, our mothers, our daughters. It's so important. My son, poor thing, he's 21. He knows all about menopause because it's so important, because someday he is going to have to guide somebody whether it's his best friend or his wife or whoever, guide them through this journey and be a support system for
Talk to my mom.
them.
Yeah. But
One
you're
of the
right.
things,
Go
well,
ahead.
I was going to say, one of the things I noticed, because I asked my mom, I'm like, why didn't we ever talk about this? Because my sister and I talk about it all the time now, obviously. My mom had a hysterectomy. And so she was like, I didn't know, like it just happened. And then, I was like 38 at the time or whatever. And so I went through menopause after the hysterectomy. And the more women I talked to, their mothers had hysterectomies. So it's almost like that was like a common thing to do back, I guess that would have been the 80s when these ladies were in their 30s and stuff. But so they experienced menopause differently than we might as going through it, naturally and not having it sped up because of a surgery or whatever. And so that's another thing I think why a lot of women don't talk about it is they're like, I didn't even know that that's what happened to my body after. And that's important too, to have those conversations, just learn more about it.
Yeah. And I think that the more we talk about it and open up the conversations, and maybe somebody's husband is going to be listening to this podcast, or another lady and I'm going to tell you that my client, I'm going to have her listen. When this comes out, I will have her listen to it as well, because,
Yeah.
it's important. It's really important. So, but is there anything that we have not discussed, Karen, that you'd like to bring
I'll
up?
tell you what, we have thrown a lot in a short amount of time. I mean, obviously, we could talk about this forever. I could believe my family can tell you, I could talk about it for a long period of time. I just think the most important thing is my three takeaways that I always tell women is number one, normal doesn't mean it's not treatable. Don't get caught up with them saying your blood test is normal, incontinence is normal, hot flashes are normal. It's just part of aging. That doesn't mean it's not treatable. Number two, be your own self advocate. If you go
Yep.
in and you feel like you're not being heard, they're not listening to you, they're blowing you off, they're not giving you options for treatment that you're interested in or curious about, then get a second opinion, get a third opinion, open up the dialogue with your coworkers, your best friend. Who do you like your doctor? Are they listening to you? Are they giving you the treatments that you feel you deserve? If so, can I get their number? We have to have these conversations. We have to have that sisterhood. And then number three, listen to your body. I promise it is talking to you. It is telling you, it's telling you when it feels good. It's telling you when it doesn't feel good. And we need to honor it and we need to listen to it. And that's hopefully what the workbook can help you do, is listen to those small whispers.
Okay, without looking at this, I'm just curious. High blood pressure.
Yes. What about it?
Okay, so, all right. So
Did your pup just come in the door?
he sure did.
I love that. Hello, Mom.
So Lori, or excuse me, Karen, so is there anything else that we need to, if you brought a lot of information to the table, and would encourage anybody who is watching this to purchase Karen's book, Navigating Menopause, and it's behind her on the shelf. And this is my dog Jax. He's never been on a podcast at all yet, so this is the first.
I love it.
It's
I'm
very
surprised.
natural.
I have 5 and they're all silent right now, so I'm surprised.
Okay.
Um,
So I guess, so welcome to my house. So yeah.
I would say the biggest thing is, even if you feel like you're postmenopausal, there's still great information in here. If you feel like I'm too young for that, there's still great information in here. Actually, that's probably the best time to read it, when you feel like you're too young, so that you can start to listen to those whispers. And if you feel like you're knee deep into it, it's great information.
Yeah.
It really does go through the whole thing from peri
Yeah.
to post. So
Yeah. And I just want to put a plug in. If you're not exercising, find a program that works for you, because
yeah,
weight bearing exercises are so important. And I think I can say that confidently between Karen and what I do.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's really, really important. So, Karen, thank you so much for
Oh,
joining me
thank
on this
you.
podcast. This has been wonderful. And can you stay on for just a second so we can correct? So thank
Perfect.
you. Thank you for listening to today's podcast. It's my lifelong mission to educate and bring awareness to the fitness industry around trauma-informed movement. If you have any questions or subject that you would like to hear addressed, reach out to me at my website at www.studiotpilates.com. Hit that subscribe button so the next time we release our latest episode, you're going to be notified. You can also reach out to me on Facebook at Tammy Leisure. On Instagram, you can also reach out to me at Tammy Leisure, but also Studio T Pilates MI. Thank you for listening to today's episode, and we'll talk to you next time.